Good morning. Today we'll see object-oriented programming, the topic that is software evolution, procedural and object-oriented programming. First we'll see software evolution. We can also term paradigm methods or approach to solve any problem. So in computer engineering, we are interested to solve problems using programming. To write a program, we need programming languages. Hence, we can say that programming paradigm is an approach to solve problem using some programming language. So a well-known writer in the field of AI, artificial intelligence, compared the evolution of software technology to the growth of the tree. Right? So, as per the need of the customer, there is evolution in the software. As change comes into the picture, evolution you cannot avoid. You cannot avoid the change in the current software system. So there are lots of programming language that are known, but all of them need to follow some strategy when they are implemented, and this methodology or strategy is referred as a paradigm. Nowadays, most languages uses an object-oriented programming paradigm, so due to its benefits over other programming paradigms. However, this is not the first approach of the programming available in the computing. Similar to the computer hardware, programming languages are also passing through evolutionary phases. Right? So that is shown here. That is passed through the evolutionary phases. So here you can see initially to write a program, machine languages are used to write the program. However, these are very difficult for programs and their development. To overcome its drawback, few years later, you can say that another approaches comes into the picture. So when we are talking initially, it's all in terms of binary one and zero. Then machine languages which deals with this. Then assembly language. Then comes into the picture procedure-oriented language. Then object-oriented programming languages. Higher languages comes into the picture. When we are talking about this machine language, so machine language is some machine dependent, faster program execution, however slow program development, right? That is the lower programming efficiency for the machine language. Memory management need to look after by programmers in machine language. Programmer needs to remember operation codes, not in user understandable format. Right? That is one of the important part of this machine language. So program updating is somehow difficult in the machine language. If there are certain changes, how to inculcate this, that is somehow difficult in this machine language. And the small size programs are written in the machine language. Now, when we are talking about this language related to the assembly language, so that is next stage of this particular machine language. The programs are written in the assembly language. We are using assembler to run such type of assembly language programs. Then your procedure-oriented programming approach comes into the picture, where sequential execution of programming considered, and then object-oriented programming paradigm comes into the picture. So this is how you can say that way how softwares are evolved throughout the years. So here one of the promoters of the object-oriented paradigm, that is Alan Kay, and the principal designer of Smalltalk, said that as complexity increases, architecture dominates the basic materials. Right? So depends on the complexity you are supposed to deal with, work with the architecture. And if your architecture of the program is very strong, then somehow you can expect efficient programming or outcome from that particular software or programming language. Now we'll see. First, procedural programming. What is procedural programming? So, procedural programming can be defined as a programming model which is derived from structured programming based upon the concept of calling procedure. The procedures are also known as routines, subroutines, or functions. So, simply consists of a series of computational steps to be carried out. During a program execution, any given procedure might be called at any point, so including by other procedures or itself. So in procedure program approach, a program is divided into functions that perform a specific task. So in this scope of the data is global and all the function can access the global data. So data is global, all the function can access that particular global data. Program flow control is achieved through function calls and go to statements. Now this approach avoids repetition of code, which is the main drawback of this sort of monolithic approach. So when I'm saying monolithic approach, that means monolithic program contains a single function for the large program. The program consists of sequence of statements that modify data. Right? So all the statements of the program are global throughout the whole program. That is what the monolithic approach. Now the basic drawback of procedure programming approach is that it is not secured because data is global and can be accessed by any function. So this approach is mainly used for medium-sized applications. The procedure programming approach is used by various languages like Fortran, COBOL, C. So this, you can say, conventional programming languages are there which are based on this particular procedural programming. Now, in connection this procedure programming, we can also have look for the structure, or you can say modular programming. The structure programming approach is the top-down methodology of programming. Same here for the this procedure is applicable as it is. The basic principles of structure programming approach is divide a program in functions and modules. Right? The structure programming approach is used by the languages like Pascal and C. They use this structure programming approach. Now next, the point related to this is nothing but object-oriented programming. So when we discover about this object-oriented programming, it can be defined as a programming model which is based upon the concept of objects. So object contain data in the form of attributes and code in the form of methods. Now in object-oriented programming, computer programs are designed using the concept of objects that interact with the real world. Now object-oriented programming languages are also are various, but the most popular one are class-based object-oriented programming, meaning that objects instance of classes which also determine their types. Right. So the object-oriented programming approach is designed to resolve the drawbacks of the conventional approaches, structure and the procedural approach. Now the basic principle of the object-oriented programming approach is to combine both data and functions so that both can operate into a single unit. Such unit is called as object. This approach secures data also. So security is more important in the object-oriented programming. Nowadays, this approach is used mostly in wide range of applications. Now, here, emphasis on data rather than the procedure. So programs are divided into what are known as the objects. Data is hidden and cannot be accessed by external functions because the object of that particular class is able to access that particular data and the functions accordingly. Objects may communicate with each other through the functions. Right? So communication is through the functions that is defined inside that particular class. New data and function can be easily added whenever there is a requirement of the program. And this important point solves the bottom-up approach in a programming design. So that is one of the important points in object-oriented programming. You can see object A, object B. So communication between object A and object B is to the function. Data and functions are inside the class and that is accessible to the object. If you want to access the data of this particular class, you can use this object A and access the data and the function accordingly. Then when we are talking about this particular uh, object-oriented programming, the concept object is there. So object are the basic runtime entities in object-oriented programming system. So this may result a person or place or bank account like this that can be termed as a, you can say that class and the related object. So when you say that object for a class student, so it is having data related to name, date of birth, marks, and functions like total, average, display, and so on. And when you are talking about class, object contain data and code to manipulate the data. The entire set of data and code of an object can be made user-defined data types with the help of the class. So if you are having class fruit, so its object is mango, and you can say other, you can say that object related to the fruit class. Here important point that we have to notice that object is having state and behavior, that property associated with the object. When we are defining any object of the class fruit, so it is having certain state and the behavior accordingly. Now class has somehow three, you can say, compartment: class name, data members, maybe static attributes or may not be, and member functions, right? So that is nothing but general composition of the class. So you can have suppose for example class name student, your data member say integer, roll number, string name, member function like get data, display information like this. We'll see quickly the difference between procedure-oriented programming and the object-oriented programming. So in procedure programming, the program is divided into small parts called as the functions. Whereas in the object-oriented programming, the program is divided into small parts called the objects. The next is when procedural programming follows a top-down approach of programming, whereas in the object-oriented programming it follows a bottom-up approach. In procedure-oriented programming, there is no access specified in procedure programming, but in object-oriented programming, it has access specifiers like private, public, protected. These are the access specifiers. With respect to variables, you can specify, or variables also you can specify these access specifiers. Adding new in procedure-oriented programming, adding new data and function is not easy, whereas in object-oriented programming, it is somehow easy compared to the procedure-oriented programming. Procedure-oriented programming is less secure. Object-oriented programming is more secure because data and your methods are wrapped inside that particular class. Only object of that particular class can access it. In procedure programming, overloading is not possible, whereas in object-oriented programming, overloading is possible. That means you can go for overloading a particular method. In procedure programming, there is no concept of data hiding and inheritance, whereas in object-oriented programming, the concept of data hiding and inheritance is used. When you say data hiding, when you are using certain variables private, so you can have proper data hiding implemented there. Inheritance, like you can implement single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, hybrid inheritance. Procedure-oriented programming, the function is more important than the data, whereas in object-oriented programming, data is more important than the function. Procedure programming is based on the unreal world, whereas object-oriented programming is based on the real world and its implementation accordingly. Procedure programming is used for designing medium-sized program. It is used for object-oriented programming is used for designing large and complex program because it has security attached to it and the more secure programming style. Procedure programming uses the concept of procedural abstraction, whereas object-oriented programming uses the concept of data abstraction. Code reusability is absent in the procedure programming, where code reusability present in the object-oriented programming. Your code can be reused. Example of procedural programming like C, Fortran, Pascal, where object-oriented programming examples like C++, Java, and the Python. So this is the difference between the procedure-oriented programming and the object-oriented programming. Now, when you are talking about this procedure-oriented, object-oriented programming, you can have certain points related to what are the limitations of the procedural programming. Now, a major disadvantage of procedural programming is, as a method of programming, is the inability of to reuse the code throughout the program. Right? So, having to rewrite the same type of code many times throughout a program can add the development cost and the time of a project. Then procedure-oriented programming, it is the difficult in error checking. Right? In procedure programming, the code is continuously broken down into smaller manageable pieces until the different problems or functions can be executed. With like and with this approach, that is the procedure programming approach, finding errors in the code becomes more and more difficult as the code gets longer and longer. So this is somehow we can say that some sort of limitations associated with the procedure programming. Again, code maintenance is difficult in the procedure programming. Focus on functions rather than the data. You can also write down such type of limitation for procedure programming. Then, when you are talking about this object-oriented programming or object-oriented programming style, we can have what is the need of this particular object-oriented programming, like to provide facility of code reusability that's supported by inheritance, to provide security of code using access specifiers. The main aim of object-oriented programming is to bind together the data and the functions that operate on them so that no other part of the code can access the data except that function. Right? Then data hiding is important required, so you need to go for the object-oriented programming. Building complex system, if you want to build complex system, you can go for the object-oriented programming. So this is how you can explain the need of object-oriented programming also. So that's all for the today's session. Thank you.